Good morning and welcome to Let's Be Frank. Today we have a guest star, the lovely Dakota.
Hi.
And we wanted to talk about something a little bit different. That is something that Dakota is very interested in and likes to do, and that is cosplay. So I think that one of the things is that Herman and I don't know a hell of a lot about it. So we're going to learn from you today what cosplay is and why you do it and how you do it and all those things. So firstly, what is it?
So basically, the word cosplay comes from costume play. So you take characters, like usually it's characters you connect to or that you've played with in a game or read about in a comic book or anything along that line, but usually in the geek fandom. So like it can be from Game of Thrones to this game or literally anything, and you dress up as them.
And where do you do it? Do you just do it at home and take photos, or do you go to, I know, comic book conventions?
Yes. Yeah, so usually you go and do it at a convention, but like even me, I've made some costumes that have never seen the light. Like especially when I started, I like actually talked to Matt about this the other day because he asked, do I sew my own costumes?
Yes.
And I was like, well, my first costume was entirely stuck together with glue.
Okay.
So because I couldn't do like a stitch of sewing, my mom actually like dabbles in sewing, and like even with that I have never sewn anything myself. But now I do. Now I've like really improved on that. So
that's cool. So you make all your own outfits?
Yes, and like all the props and everything. So it's crazy. But this like there's so many skills you learn when you do something like this. Like even now there's so much that I still have left to learn, and with every costume and every build you learn so many new things because every costume has like new elements. Like you can have something that is mainly focused in like big poofy dresses and like veils and whatever, but then you get something that is a little more like armor intensive, that has like leather working and weathering and people like some of the things people do, it is absolutely insane. And
it sounds incredible.
But it sounds like a lot of work and effort goes into this. And then if you say that
sometimes
it's only the conventions where you can kind of go and show off. It sounds like it's a hell of a lot of work for very little opportunity. To kind of get out there and show off what you're doing. So I suppose that social media come into play there as well.
Yes,
of course.
Like that's one of the main areas where people will see your costumes. Like before events, you post the pictures and people are like, okay, and like a lot of people announce what they're going to be cosplaying as before the events. But I think with something like Comic-Con coming to South Africa now last year, it really increases the visibility we are able to have in South Africa, because overseas there's a ton of conventions, and like here especially we have a much smaller opportunity to be seen. But now last year there's a geek festival called Geek Fest, and they are bringing in they call it the WCS, and it's actually a competition that allows you to go to Japan if you win. So then you go and compete. It is World Cosplay Summit. Yes.
Okay.
So then when you win there, you actually get the opportunity to go to Japan and then go and enter in one of those competitions.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So how big is the cosplay community in South Africa? Do you know? Or
serious cosplayers, not that big. Like, you know the names of like all the huge cosplayers, but there's a few, like there's about 3 girls that are really big, and they go to like one of them got invited to a convention now in Switzerland, where they actually like they tell you like, we want you at our convention, and then they pay for you to come over, they sponsor you. So it's grown a lot. Like in the last 2 years, I'd have to say it's like grown quite exponentially. And also because it's kind of easier now, because there's a lot of like smaller cosplay stores that have opened where you can like buy some of the stuff.
Cool.
So especially like one of the materials we work with, it's a thermoplastic. We don't get it in South Africa, so they need to import it. And it's one of the things that does the nicest detailing on armor, but it's really expensive to get here, and like it's kind of hard to get a hold of it. So but with stores like this opening, they import it in batches, and then you can.
That's cool.
I think it's like you said, you know, more opportunities and more events, which will obviously grow it, which will then probably entice people to bring in more of the stuff and make it more accessible and a little bit cheaper. The other question I think you sort of answered it, but I just want to go back to that is it something that you can make a profession out of? Is it something you can make a living out of?
I know of a few people who do it like solely, but because like sometimes it's really difficult, like for me to like you work until, at least I can work till 3, so I get a little bit of extra awake time to like craft and stuff. But there's some people, I know there's a lady, she's a mother and she works during the day, so like she gets, I'm guessing, about 2 hours a day to like properly craft. But for people that are able to like constantly, I know freelancers are usually like the main I've noticed the main careers that cosplayers have, or they're either like graphic designers or freelancers or people with a bit of career flexibility in that way. And then I know people who do it permanently, like that girl that got invited, her name's Kinpatsu Cosplay. She does it full time, so because she gets invited to conventions and they sell prints, so there's like many ways, and like template books and do commissions, so there's a lot of ways you can generate money from it.
Okay, that's interesting.
It's like an interesting lifestyle.
So
I think so too.
Just again, it's one of those things where I think we touched on in the past. This is, you know, it's so easy to say, oh, I don't have time for this, or I don't have time for that, you know, but it's more like, you know, I'm not interested enough, or this is not important enough for me to do. And the example that you used of a mother with a full-time job, and you think, well, where does she find the time? Well, this is clearly important enough for her, and she makes the time for it. That's really interesting. I didn't realize that it is something where people can make a career out of it.
And how long does it take you to make an outfit?
So
I'm sure it depends on the complexity of it.
Yes, and like if it's something that I haven't done before, it usually takes a bit longer. So like the one I'm currently busy with is a pretty big weapon. It's like about my height. And I went shopping for PVC pipe to make it like detachable because it's so big and like so I can take it apart. And what I didn't realize at the time, because I was planning on putting PVC pipe connectors in the middle, but I didn't realize at the time is that you don't get 15mm pipe connectors, which is exactly the type of pipe I'd of course get. So now I have to like figure out a way to make it attach without having what I need to make it attach. So like that's kind of proving to be a bit of a struggle, but like usually on the standard build it takes about, working as well, 2 months.
Okay. That's quite a commitment.
It
sounds like you're becoming a bit of a DIY expert
and that's exactly like I told Hein the other day about like the tools I have now. I have like a heat gun and a glue gun and like a saw and like a lot of Stanley knives. Like I can go fix a house now.
That's cool.
So it really is about, you know, making all the, what's the correct term, the props, and not just the costume.
So I think that one of the misconceptions is that cosplay is dressing up, and clearly it's not that. It's quite a lot more effort.
It's quite big.
So where do you hope to kind of go with cosplay? Well, what is it to you? Is it just a nice hobby? Is it just a nice distraction? Or, I mean, what are your goals?
So I think it works out in 2 parts. So for me, it's like a really nice artistic medium to kind of express different styles of art. So there's painting and there's crafting and there's drawing and there's a lot of stuff for that, which really appeals to me because it's like it checks all the boxes. But then for me, I'd also like to compete. So there's different divisions. You get either you go under armor making or sewing, or like there's about 10 divisions, and then you go compete under them. So at festivals and comic expos like Comic-Con and Rage, and you can actually win nice prizes for like placing in one of the spots. So that's what I'm working towards.
Cool. Have you got one that you're working towards at the moment? Is there something that you're getting ready for?
Well, the next con is going to be Icon. So that is also pretty big. They have a big competition because that used to be the main place where cosplayers could get judged and get a nice prize before Comic-Con.
When is that?
The 28th of April.
Okay.
Okay, so you got 2 months
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah.
Have you picked your character?
Yes, it's a character from League of Legends. Her name
Okay,
is
cool.
Diana. So I'm doing one of her skins where
Oh, cool.
she has like this red, aggressive, coloured shirt and dress, and then this kopesh, which is the
cool.
sickle sword thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to send us pictures.
I will.
Yeah.
I will.
Or do you have somewhere where we can follow your progress? Or
Yes, I have a Instagram page and a Facebook page. There's not much happening at the moment on them, but like I post progress pictures.
That's very
and
cool,
So it's
yeah.
called
Yeah.
Asphyxie Pew.
Asphyxie.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll get
Yeah,
it
we'll
and put it up on the
Yeah.
screen if anyone wants to
Yes.
follow you. That's very cool.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I must say that in a very short time I learned quite a bit.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it is something that you would, whatever festival or so, go and enter, and that you actually want to be judged by
People.
You choose to
Yeah.
be judged.
Yeah, and the other thing that I really find interesting is the connection with the art, and the fact that this is
It's a
a
creative.
very visual art medium, kind of something that you make yourself part of
Yes.
the art that you do,
Yes.
whereas usually the artist kind of stands separate from the
Yeah.
piece of work. So it is. It's definitely something that I think you need some serious confidence.
Yeah.
Kind of put yourself
Yeah.
out there because you're part of the visual representation of it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'll definitely look at this in a different light.
Yeah. I suppose it's not just the outfit, it's the makeup. I mean,
Yes. Like I have really, since I've started doing this, like my makeup skills have really, I used to be like, okay, just like a face cream and then it's fine and we can go. But now you need to like, especially because all the characters like from anime, they look different to what they look like. And so you have like these type of eyebrows and some of the other characters have like elf ears, and it's all stuff like you create. So that's another artistic thing that comes into play.
Lots and lots of different skills that you have to get better or good at.
Yeah.
And I suppose to really be at the top of your game there, you have to master all of those things.
Yeah.
Because if you if you don't get some of these makeup techniques right, then people will go, yeah, great outfit, but you know, it doesn't really fulfill the brief in a sense, you know. So and that's fascinating that it is multidisciplined, where you have to focus and lots of areas where you really have to work on your skills.
Yeah. No, I think it's fascinating, and we'll definitely be following you and find out more about it.
Pictures.
Yeah.
Definitely, and you know, when you enter into, you must make us aware. You know, we'd really like to
Support.
support and follow your progress. And it sounds like an expensive hobby to me.
Yes.
So I thought golf was an expensive hobby, but this really sounds like you can spend a lot of money in terms of, if I just listen to
PVC piping and
well, that's the cheap part, you know, it's all the tools that you need and so on, and I can just imagine, you know, in terms of the makeup and so forth, you know,
material and
these things are, it's quite an investment that you're making.
Quite expensive, especially when you like do something that you've never done before and you need to like get materials and stuff for it. So if you get paints, there's like a standard range of paints you obviously use for like black and grey for shading and those type of stuff. But when you go with something, for example, green, and you need a green acrylic and a green oil paint to like kind of shade, that's a whole new like avenue you're branching out of.
Sure.
So it's quite
How much time do you spend on average per week?
I try to at least get about an hour or two a day in.
Yeah.
And then, but some of it's like really difficult to kind of quantify, because, for example, when you make a weapon, you need to paint it with Mod Podge so that it seals the foam that you're using, and then you kind of need to wait for that to dry before you can like either paint it with another layer or paint it with paint. So then usually I like prime something, leave it there, and then try and go on with something else, something smaller. But like some of these, especially the one I'm doing now, like you look at something on paper and you're like, okay, no, that's fine, that's a skirt, that's a shirt, that's a belt, that's a weapon. But then when you like, I usually take about a week to plan it out and like draw the sizes and do the scaling, and then I'm like, oh, but she has 4 different bracelets on, and she has this necklace, and she has this and this and this, and then it starts to get a lot.
And things like that, do you make it, or would that be something that you just go, let me just see what's in the drawer, or what can I buy?
So like with Diana, she has this necklace, this big bauble necklace. So what I did is I recycled some Christmas decorations. So I cut off the edges of the baubles and I painted them, and now it's done. So as opposed to going out and looking for something else, I use that as a base.
And Kota, how long have you been practicing this hobby?
So I've always liked to dress up, like for Halloween and stuff, and then about 2.5 years ago, when we were at Rage the 1 year, I was like, I actually really want to try this. And so like I bought a few stuff, read up a bit about it. I probably read up about it for like 6 months, and I was like, okay, no, wait, I'm going into that analysis paralysis phase. Like I'm trying to prepare myself too much, like just start.
Do it.
And then so I went online and I got a pattern of like a pretty simple weapon, and I made this, and it was horrible. But then I was like, okay, we're doing this. Like you already got the stuff, you might as well continue. And then start from there.
Yeah,
just start.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I actually wanted to ask a little bit about that, because so often we find that we have an interest in something, or we think we want to do something, and we kind of get caught up in that reading up part of it, or thinking, well, I'll get to it, I'll start next week or next month or whatever. What was the trigger for you that finally got you from that, okay, I've read enough now?
It's actually when I saw one particular build, one armor build, and I was like, it's never gonna happen if you don't actually make it happen. You're not just gonna wake up one morning. Like everybody has to start somewhere, and that's still something like I run into sometimes, where you see somebody created this magnificent like suit of armor or like this really intensive thing, and you're like, but I'll never be that good. But you'll never build, like time will pass anyway. You can choose how productive you want to be in that time, or how you want to spend that time. But like just sitting there and kind of looking at what everybody else is doing is not going to get you there. Yes, you can use that as a frame of reference, but you need to actually like act on it and do something.
Okay, now I have to ask you, are you bringing some of that thinking into the workplace?
Yes.
Do you find that you got any benefit in terms of from a work perspective out of the things that you learned from cosplay?
I think so, yes. I think like especially with a pipe fitting thing, like the solution or the different ways of evaluating something to bring you to a point, like pulls through into like the logical side of the coding as well. Like you're maybe like, okay, the first solution that is the standard that's accepted is maybe not going to work, so try these different approaches, or start thinking of it from this side of things.
I like that, and I think it's true of whatever it is that you do outside of work, that there are many lessons to be learned and to bring into your work, and vice versa. Hopefully some of the disciplines and so on that you learn through doing your job will also translate and help you and improve. Wow.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Dakota.
That's
Thanks
very
for joining us and sharing some of your
stuff,
life outside of work with us. It's very cool, and we'd love to follow you and support you. So thanks,
and
guys.
good luck.
Good luck.
Let you guys know.
Thanks,
Fantastic.
Dakota.
Thanks.
Thank you.